Chris, a detective, wakes up strapped to a chair. An ad for Mercy Court is playing in front of him. In the future, the crime rate is so high that prisons are overflowing. So the city has established a red zone to contain the criminals. Still, many cops have died on active duty. That's why the government rolled out the Mercy Court, an AI system that reduces the lengthy process of trial by being judge, jury, and executioner all in one. In this AI court, the accused is presumed guilty unless the suspect can prove their innocence. Mercy uses its huge data to analyze the suspect. The police keep an eye out in the city with their quadcopter team. After rolling out, Mercy impartially executed 18 criminals, saving billions of taxpayers' money and cutting crime substantially. Chris is strapped to the chair to ensure a fair trial. The AI system will give the suspect full access to the crime scenes to prove his innocence. Chris doesn't remember how he got here. He feels it's a mistake, but Mercy says it doesn't make mistakes and starts the case number 19. AI Judge Maddox will handle his case. She first assesses him. His blood alcohol is now normal to start the procedure. He was out for 5 hours. Maddox asks her to swear first, and after that, she starts the case. He is brought here with the charge of murdering his wife, Nicole. Chris is completely confused about what's going on. Maddox shows him the body cam footage of a crime scene officer. His wife is lying bleeding on the kitchen floor, while his daughter is crying beside her and asking them to save her mother. The paramedics tend to her. An officer asks who attacked her. She says Chris and dies. Chris doesn't believe any of this. Maddox gives him access to a search engine. He searches for his wife and finds an article about her murder. The news of his prosecution at the Mercy Court has broken out. It's a bit ironic. He is a big supporter of the Mercy program. He and his partner arrested the first accused for the Mercy Court, David Shaw, the first accused to be executed by the Mercy program. And now he is the one facing trial for his wife's murder. Maddox asks how he pleads, and he says he is not guilty. Mercy estimates that he has a 97.5% chance of committing the crime, which is above 80% threshold to conduct a Mercy trial. The suspect will have full access to the municipal cloud, and the citizens are required by law to connect their phone onto it. It also stores all the footage of the city. During the trial, he will get full access to it to prove his innocence. He has 90 minutes to prove it. After that, the chair will send a sonic wave to terminate him. To avoid it, the probability of his guilt must be below 92%. Maddox starts to show the evidence. He arrived at work, but didn't get out of the car, but went straight back to the house. His wife, Nicole, locked the house, saying they are done. Now they will only talk through a lawyer. Chris punches the camera and takes out his keys to go inside. They argue for 26 minutes, and then he leaves. After that, his daughter came back from her sleepover and found her mom stabbed. She was fatally stabbed at around the same time when they were arguing. He was then found drinking in a bar. When the police came to arrest him, he started a fight with them and tried to flee, so the officers knock him down. Chris can't remember anything. Maddox says his heavy drinking and a blow to the head may have impaired his memory. Overwhelmed, Chris says he wants to talk to his daughter. Maddox says he needs to first send a call request back. Chris doesn't know what to say, so Maddox sends a generic request for a callback. Being an alcoholic, Chris gets a call from his sponsor, Rob. He is angry at him for drinking, but it doesn't matter now. He already got the news about his wife, as they were co-workers at the shipyard. Maddox cut the call as he was only called to address his relapses. Chris says he can vouch that he was happily married to his wife. Maddox says she is already informed about his married life. She then plays his wedding video, his best friend and partner, Ray, addressing the crowd. After that, his wife gave birth to their baby daughter, Britt. They were living happily, until one day, he came home devastated. He just lost his best friend and partner, Ray, on the line of duty. He then started to drink heavily and started to fight with his wife. She even considered divorcing him. She messaged her friends and family about his violent behavior. Even her daughter was aware of that. She was talking to a boy about his violent temper. Chris is surprised to see this as he follows her socials. Maddox reveals that Britt has 2 profiles. One is only hidden from him. Chris is astonished when Britt calls him. He receives the call crying. She says that she tried to help Mom, but failed. Everyone is saying he did it. He says it's just all a big misunderstanding. He didn't kill her mom. She says Grandpa told her that nobody goes to Mercy Court if they are innocent. He tells her not to listen to his grandpa, but his grandpa cuts the call. Chris says that the man always hated him. Maddox reminds him that he is running out of time to prove his innocence. Chris takes a deep breath and asks her to call his partner. Jack is arriving at the crime scene. Chris tells her that he is innocent and she must help him to prove it. Jack agrees to do so. She goes to the crime scene. Maddox creates a 3D version of the crime scene. There was a footprint, but it belongs to his daughter. The kitchen knife is the murder weapon and only has his fingerprint. The only fibers present in the crime scene are also his. He says he always works at kitchen, so it's common to have that. He then asks to see his wife's phone and her call history. Most of the calls are from him, Britt, and her parents. The rest are his co-workers. Chris remembers something and asks her to show a previous video of their fighting. While fighting, she was texting someone. Maddox says there's no record of texting at that time. Chris says it's maybe her work phone, but she has no record of having a second phone. Chris says his phone has the number and calls the number. Officers inform that it's ringing in the car. Jack breaks the windscreen and retrieves the phone. Maddox says this phone isn't registered to the municipal cloud. She asks Jack to connect it with Bluetooth so she can access it. She realizes it's a burner phone. There's only one number in history that is also a burner. She calls the number, but hearing about Mercy, the receiver cuts the call. Maddox tracks the number around a red zone. Jack takes a quadcopter to reach there. The red zone is very hot at the moment. Maddox, via cell tower, tracks the person who is trying to flee from a building. But Jack and 2 other officers stops him. He immediately runs back into the building. With the new suspect, Chris's guilt probability decreases by just 1%. With facial recognition, they find the man's socials. His name is Patrick and he is a chef. The cops send a drone to find him. He is on the rooftop running from them. Jack comes down and tackles the man and they both fall. The man tries to fight, but Jack takes him down. They connect him to Mercy. He says he was afraid after hearing about Nicole's death and got afraid hearing about Mercy on the phone. Chris asks what he was doing with her wife. He says he met her at the farmer's market and they started seeing each other. She wanted to talk to him privately. That's why he gave her the burner. Chris asks about his alibi and he says he was at the restaurant all day. Chris checks CCTV footage and finds he is telling the truth. Mercy gives him clean shit. Burke says Chris messed up with his wife as she just needed someone to talk to and stars curse him for killing her. Jack arrests him for resisting arrest earlier. Mercy reveals his probability of guilt is now 98%, which is the highest statistically. Trying to find a suspect, he gave them a strong motive for the murder. Mercy feels Chris is not being fully truthful. Chris says that being an alcoholic was creating problems. So he got an Alcoholics Anonymous program and, with his sponsor Rob, completed 1 year. But he couldn't hold on to it. Ray and he were on petrol one day and stopped car when Nicole called Chris. Ray went alone to check on the car. Chris was talking to her when Ray screams that the suspect has a gun. Suddenly, the perpetrator drives backwards and smashes Ray into the van. He tried to take him to the hospital, but he had to catch the criminal. Ray passed away inside the van. He rams the car out of anger. He runs behind and arrests the guy. Despite wanting to shoot him, he didn't, and the criminal was acquitted of the murder charge. He started relapsing from then, regretting his decision not to shoot him. He keeps a flask to drink hidden from his family. On the day of the murder, he saw that the flask was missing from his car. He knew Nicole had found it, so he went back, and they started to argue. He doesn't remember anything after that. He starts to think that maybe he did it. Maddox warns him that a confession will trigger immediate termination. He still has time, shouldn't waste it away. Chris then again starts his investigation. He asks to see his wife's call log. He separates friends and work. He tries to figure out who it can be. He doesn't know anything about her recent life. Maybe Burke was right, and he should have tried to listen to her. He asks to talk with Burke. Burke is at a police station. Maddox connects with him. Chris asks what he and Nicola talked about. He says that recently she was stressed about her work. Some chemicals went missing from the shipyard, and Nicola was assigned to investigate it. Chris starts to look at her coworkers. Maddox informs all of her coworkers are still in the shipyard. Chris calls Jack and asks her visit the shipyard. He can't remember any of Nicole's co-workers. He asks if Britt took any video of the bark party last weekend. She has, and from the video Maddox creates a 3D enactment. Maddox says nobody visited his house at the time of the murder. Chris says their neighbor has a bird cam which faces their backyard. Maddox retrieves the footage, but the archive will take time as his neighbor's internet is down. He asks her to find out who drove their personal car to the barbecue party. She finds out that the 4 cars came to his house, which are registered to the shipyard company employee. One of them is Robert's car, which gave a lift to 3 more employees. Chris wishes to talk with Rob, and Maddox connects him. Chris asks who he gave a lift to, and if they all left with him. He tells him the names of the co-workers he gave a lift to, but as there was no plan, they all left on their own, and he gave other co-workers a lift back home. He asks if any employee didn't show up for work, but he says that everybody he knows is present. Chris cuts the call and remembers his daughter's Insta story. While talking to someone, she heard something and thought it was Chris. But at that time, Chris was at work, as proven by his attendant log. He asks her to call Britt. Britt is crying after seeing the news. She now starts to think that Chris killed her mother. He tries to explain he didn't, but she doesn't believe, and her grandpa is calling, so she is about to cut the call. But Maddox stops her, saying she should hear about his father's defense. He inquires about her story and what she heard. She is shocked that he checked her private stuff. Chris apologizes about it, but says they don't have time. She says she doesn't know who it was. Mom was at the bed, and she searched the house, but found no one. Chris asks to see his last night's story, in which she was talking about seeing a ghost. It was after she heard a noise. Chris sees on the footage that the basement door is open. He asks her if she checked the basement. But Britt didn't, as she doesn't go down in basement. He asks Maddox to pause at the half-open door and clean the image. There's a hand at the door. Chris tells Britt he will call her back and cut the call. As it's a man's hand, he starts to look at the male employees. Maddox reminded him that he still hadn't investigated about Nicole's findings about the missing chemicals. By searching her mail, they find that a chemical named urea granules is missing, which can be used to make drugs, which is in high demand in the red zone area. The investigation was conducted between Nicole, Rob, and another employee named Holt. Holt mailed Nicole to talk to her personally. Maddox brings out the CCTV footage, and it shows Nicole and Holt arguing. Holt pleads with her to give time, but she refuses. Chris asks for Holt's financial. He is deep in debt. Rob was helping him with some money. The probability of guilt decreases, but not enough to stop the trial. Chris wants to talk with Rob again, but Holt picks up his call. He says Rob is out, and he will try to look for him. As he is looking for Rob, Maddox is able to retrieve the footage of his neighbor. It shows that someone has escaped via the bush, and the neighbor's car also left at the same time. Because of a power outage, retrieving the traffic footage will take time. Holt comes back and says he didn't find Rob. Chris thinks he is stalling and confronts him about the missing chemicals and his debt. He then reveals that he was trying to protect Rob. He and Nicole found out that Rob was the one who was stealing the chemicals. Rob always helped him out, that's why he asks Nicole to keep it secret. Rob is now missing with a company truck. They figured he was sick as he'd taken sick leave yesterday. The last time he saw him was at their party. He wanted to talk with Nicole about the missing chemical. That's why he drove his car home. Maddox starts to search his truck and finds it stopped at a building. She's also able to retrieve the footage of his neighbor's car journey. They see Rob coming out of the car trunk. He calls Jack and gives her the address of Rob's truck. A SWAT team is also informed. Guilt probability still didn't decrease to stop the trial. Chris asks her if she still thinks he killed him. Maddox says she only considers the fact. The existence of a new suspect doesn't eliminate his chance to kill his wife. Chris forces her to think not with facts, but with her gut. She starts malfunctioning for a bit, but soon became normal. The SWAT team arrive at the location. Rob has a gun, so he warns them to be cautious. They search the house, but he isn't here. He planted the tracker as a decoy. Maddox starts to search for the number plate through the traffic cam. SWAT team finds a childhood picture. Chris, suspicious about it, asks Maddox search for the missing part of the picture. Jack, with the SWAT team, goes to search the backyard storage. They found he had been planning this for a long time. There was a handbook. Maddox checks it and finds it's the process to make a bomb. The chemicals he stole can be used to make a bomb. He has the bomb in the truck. He informs others about their findings. Maddox is able to locate the truck. It's going very fast towards downtown. Maddox has a match of the image. She searches the database and sees that the kid was David Webb, the first participant to be executed by the Mercy Court. They were 2 orphan brothers taken in by Child Services. They were separated when Robert was adopted alone, where his surname also changed. Chris was the one who arrested him. That's mean being his AA sponsor was all planned. His target is him and the Mercy Court. He informs Jack about this and says he is coming towards the Mercy Court. Maddox detects a second person in the car. They tried to look closer, and Maddox tried to backtrack the truck's route. Suddenly, Chris asks to call Britt. She calls, but her grandpa picks up the call. He says Britt has gone out for some air. She pulls the doorbell cam and sees Rob kidnapping Britt. The other person in the car is Britt. He informs Jack about it when they suddenly see a bomb. They all flee from there, but bomb blasts take out some SWAT members. Thankfully, Jack made it safely. Chris' guilt probability goes down to 0. Maddox says she will now terminate the trial. But Chris tells her to stop, because if the trial ends, they will lose system access. She reminds him that if he stays in the chair, he will be dead when the timer ends. He says they must find out the truth, and he needs her help. She agrees and starts to locate the truck. Is smashing through police cars, wreaking havoc on the road. Police Captain Havelock connects with them. He says if they can divert the route towards the bridge, he can stop the truck. The police start to divert the truck route. A team arrived to retrieve Britt from the truck, but he was able to shake them off, and the mission failed miserably. Jack orders the captain to take out the truck, but Chris says his daughter is still in there. She says they can't take a risk because if a blast occurs, there will be lots of casualties. Chris now pleads with Maddox to stop the bomb, but she says it is the right choice. Captains send the bomb car under the truck, but didn't blast. Chris understands it was she who stopped it, but she does not acknowledge it. The truck is heading towards the building. Maddox gives the order to evacuate the building. Chris asks Jack to go in front. He needs to talk with Rob. He tries to reason with him, but he says his brother was innocent, yet they executed him to make the Mercy program successful. He must suffer for it. Jack, out of patience, shoots him but misses. Chris asks her to stop, as Britt is inside. To stop her, Maddox takes out his quadcopter. The truck crushed into the Mercy Court building. The power gets disrupted, and Chris gets locked in the chair. Maddox is out. She keeps repeating that the system is working at 40%. Rob is taking out the guards. Chris screams to free him, as there are only a few seconds left. At the last moment, Maddox comes back online and frees Chris from the chair. He runs downstairs to save his daughter. He takes an officer's headphones to talk to Maddox. Rob screams at him to come out. Chris says Rob wants to prove his brother was innocent. Maddox must start David's trial to buy some time. Maddox says he will try to bring the cloud back online. Chris comes out and says let Britt go. He can have him. Rob was making sure that he is present in the building, so he can blow it with him. Suddenly, Maddox intervenes and says that before he blows up the court, he has a chance to prove his brother's innocence. Rob says he found his brother before his demise. He gave him a phone to contact him. He was talking to his brother on the phone when they claimed he killed a lady. She pulls up the case and says his brother was found with a murder weapon with his fingerprint, but he didn't have a phone. Rob says she is just a heartless machine. He had a phone, and they were talking for an hour. Maddox says his evidence has failed. When Britt bites his hand and runs, Chris jumps on him, and they get into a fist fight. Chris takes out the detonator and then grabs his gun to shoot him. But Maddox and his daughter ask her not to do it. Chris calms himself and stops himself from shooting. Rob keeps saying his brother was innocent. He even called the precinct when suddenly Jack shot Rob. But Chris stops her from killing him. As the officers arrest him, he is still saying a lady from the precinct took his call and told him that she would call her back after verifying it. But no call came. Chris asks Jack if she received his call and didn't tell them about it. She was the one who processed David. Maddox checks the body cam footage and finds there was a phone, but it didn't make it to the evidence list. Maddox sees that David was indeed talking to his brother and was not present at the crime scene. She then searches Jack's location and sees that on her way home, she stopped at the bridge and dumped the phone. Jack says they needed the Mercy program to work. The first case needed to be successful. They need Mercy to get rid of the criminals. Chris says they needed justice. He arrests her, and the officers take her away. He hugs his daughter and tells Maddox that AI or humans all make mistakes, and they learn from them. Maddox agrees. Case 19 is now dismissed. So you were watching the recap of the movie Mercy 2026. Subscribe if you like our content, and check out other videos as well.